a young princess stepped into the heart of Lumura's palace, unaware that the kingdom she once knew was on the brink of collapse. She had been cast aside, falsely accused of a crime she did not commit, and banished to the sea. But what she found on her return wasn't the warm welcome she had hoped for. Instead, it was the fractured kingdom of her father, torn apart by greed, betrayal, and a ruthless enemy that had secretly risen to power. What followed would unravel a dark conspiracy, topple the criminals who had used her name to manipulate the kingdom, and force Zara to face the ones who had betrayed her. They thought they were rid of her. They didn't know that the quiet, seemingly broken girl they had cast into the sea was now a force more powerful than they could ever imagine. Sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest, it's the one who's learned to listen, observe, and wait for the right moment to strike. This is the story of how Zara returned to save her kingdom, and how her enemies made the deadly mistake of underestimating the strength of a woman scorned. Before we dive deeper into the tale, tell us where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe. Tomorrow's chapter is filled with twists you won't want to miss. The sun rose over the kingdom of Lumura, painting the walls of King Jaja's grand palace in gold. Inside, servants bustled about, carrying trays of sweet-smelling fruits and bowls of steaming porridge. But in the midst of this, Zara sat alone in the garden, her hands wrapped around a small clay pot filled with water. Zara was no ordinary girl. As the king's youngest daughter, she was loved by the people of Tula, a village on the edge of the kingdom, for her kindness. Children would follow her around the market square, laughing as she handed out coins for sweets. Women would whisper blessings when she helped carry heavy baskets. But there was something else about Zara, something even she didn't understand. Whenever Zara touched water, strange things happened. Flowers would bloom out of season. Birds would sing songs no one had heard before. One day, a servant dropped a vase, and just before it shattered, the water from Zara's hand formed a bubble and caught the pieces. The people of Tula called it a miracle, but in the palace, the whispers were different. The courtiers, jealous of Zara's closeness to the king, started spreading dark rumors. "She's bewitched," one of them whispered in the shadows of the great hall. "The king's troubles began when she was born." Another nodded, his eyes gleaming with malice. "If we don't act, she will destroy us all." The rumors slithered through the palace like snakes, hissing into every corner. Soon, even the servants began to look at Zara differently. Her warm smiles were met with hesitant nods, and the children who once played with her in the garden no longer visited. Zara felt the change but didn't understand why. One afternoon, while she sat in her favorite spot by the koi pond, her father, King Jaja, approached her. The king was a towering man with a presence that commanded attention. His beard, streaked with silver, framed a face worn by the burdens of leadership. But when he looked at Zara, his eyes softened. "My little star," he said, sitting beside her. "Why do you seem troubled?" Zara hesitated, tracing patterns in the dirt with her finger. "Father, do you believe I am strange?" The question caught the king off guard. He frowned. "Who has put such thoughts in your head?" Zara shrugged, her voice barely a whisper. "I see the way they look at me now. Even the birds seem quieter when I'm near." King Jaja chuckled, though it was tinged with sadness. "You are not strange, Zara. You are special. The gods have blessed you with a gift. Never let anyone make you feel otherwise." His words comforted her, but only for a moment. As the days passed, the whispers grew louder. The palace seemed cursed. First, the royal granaries caught fire in the middle of the night, destroying the season's harvest. Then, a fever swept through the court, leaving the king bedridden for days. And as if that wasn't enough, the kingdom's most loyal general defected to a rival nation, leaving their borders vulnerable. The courtiers seized their chance. One evening, during a council meeting, a tall, sharp-faced man named Bako stepped forward. His voice dripped with feigned concern. "Your Majesty, we have done everything to rid the palace of misfortune. Offerings to the gods. Sacrifices at the sacred grove. Yet the calamities persist." The king, weary and frustrated, rubbed his temples. "What are you suggesting, Bako?" Bako bowed low, though his smirk was hidden. There is one explanation left, my king. Someone in the palace harbors dark powers. Someone who brings this misfortune upon us. A murmur spread through the room. The courtiers nodded, their faces solemn. The king straightened, his eyes narrowing. Who do you speak of? Bako hesitated, drawing out the moment. Then, with a theatrical sigh, he said, your daughter, Zara. The room fell silent. The king's fist slammed against the table. You dare accuse my child? Bako stepped back, feigning humility. I speak only out of loyalty to you, my king. The signs cannot be ignored. Zara was seen by the pond when the fire broke out. The fever began shortly after she touched the water in the royal bathhouse. And the general's betrayal. He dined with her the night before he fled. Lies, the king roared, but doubt flickered in his eyes. Bako pressed on. Your Majesty, I mean no disrespect. But the safety of the kingdom must come first. If I am wrong, let the gods prove it. But if I am right... The room erupted into chaos, with courtiers shouting over one another. Zara, hidden behind a pillar, had heard everything. Her heart pounded as tears streamed down her cheeks. She didn't understand how they could twist her actions into something evil. That night, the king summoned her to his chambers. My child, he began, his voice heavy with sorrow, there are those who believe your presence brings misfortune. I do not want to believe it, but the people are frightened. Zara knelt before him, her small hands clasped together. Father, I would never harm anyone. Please, you must believe me. I do, Zara, he said, cupping her face. But belief is not enough. The court demands action. If I do nothing, the people may turn against you. Against us. Tears spilled from Zara's eyes. What will you do? The king looked away, unable to meet her gaze. At dawn, you will be taken to the coast. There, the gods will decide your fate. Zara gasped, her chest tightening. She knew what that meant. The coast was sacred, a place where offerings were left for the sea spirits. If the sea accepted you, you were never seen again. Father, please, she begged, but his silence was answer enough. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, Zara was led from the palace, her wrists bound with soft rope. The villagers lined the streets, their faces a mixture of fear and pity. The sea roared in the distance, its waves crashing against the jagged rocks. The priests chanted prayers, their voices rising with the wind. Zara stood at the edge, her heart heavy with betrayal. When the final chant ended, she was pushed forward. The cold water swallowed her whole. The sea was unforgiving. Zara tumbled beneath the waves, the icy water filling her ears and lungs. Her arms thrashed wildly, but the weight of her despair pulled her down faster than the current. The sun above blurred into darkness, and soon, all was quiet. Zara's thoughts began to fade as she sank deeper into the ocean's embrace. Then, just as her vision dimmed, she felt something warm wrap around her wrist. A soft, melodic voice echoed in her mind. Hold on, child. You are not meant to perish here. A powerful surge of energy coursed through her, pulling her upward. Zara's eyes fluttered open to find herself encased in a shimmering bubble of air, glowing faintly in the dark waters. She gasped, coughing out seawater as she realized she could breathe. Before her floated a creature unlike anything she had ever seen. The woman had skin that shimmered like moonlight, hair that flowed like seaweed, and eyes the color of the deepest ocean. Her lower half was a sleek, iridescent tail that sparkled with every hue of blue and green. I am Lena, the woman said, her voice like a song. And you, little one, are far from where you belong. Zara blinked, still trying to understand. What are you? Lena smiled, her sharp teeth gleaming. I am a mermaid, guardian of these waters. And you are a child of the land, cast away by those who should have cherished you. The memory of the betrayal flooded back, and tears welled in Zara's eyes. They called me a witch, she whispered. They said I brought misfortune. My own father, her voice broke. Lena tilted her head, studying Zara. A witch? No, child. What you carry is no curse. It is a gift, though I doubt you've been taught to use it. Zara frowned. Gift? What gift? The mermaid swirled around her, the water sparkling in her wake. You have the magic of water within you. I could feel it the moment you entered my domain. It called to me, like the song of the tides. I don't understand, Zara said, her voice trembling. All I know is that strange things happen when I'm near water. Flowers bloom, broken things mend, but it only brings trouble. Lena's gaze softened. That is because you have not been shown the truth of your power. It is not meant to harm. It is meant to heal, to protect. But those who fear what they do not understand will always label it as dangerous. Zara wiped her tears, a flicker of hope sparking within her. Can you teach me? Lena nodded. If you are willing to learn, I will show you. But the path will not be easy. The ocean is vast and filled with both beauty and danger. To master your gift, you must face both. I'll do it, Zara said, her voice firm. If I can learn to control this power, maybe I can prove I'm not a witch. The mermaid's laughter rippled through the water. Oh, little one, you have much to learn. Come, let us begin. Over the next few days, or perhaps weeks, for time beneath the sea felt different, Lena became Zara's guide. They swam through coral forests that glowed with bioluminescent light, explored underwater caves filled with treasures from shipwrecks, and met creatures Zara had only heard of in stories. Lena taught her how to sense the rhythm of the water, to listen to its whispers. Water remembers, Lena explained one day. Every ripple, every drop, carries a story. Learn to listen, and it will tell you what you need to know. Zara practiced tirelessly. She learned to summon small currents with a flick of her wrist, to shape bubbles of air, and even to calm the restless waves. At first, it felt impossible, but with Lena's patient guidance, she began to trust herself. One day, as they rested in a hidden cove, Lena turned to Zara. You've come far, little one. But there is more you must understand. What is it? Zara asked, her curiosity piqued. The power within you is not just for yourself, Lena said. It is connected to the land, the sea, and the people who dwell upon them. One day, you will face a choice, to use your gift for vengeance or for healing. That choice will define who you truly are. Zara frowned, her mind swirling with questions. What do you mean? I just want to go back and prove I'm not a monster. Lena's eyes darkened, her voice turning serious. Be careful what you wish for, child. The world above is not as it was when you left. Your absence has left a void, and chaos has taken root. When the time comes, you must decide not just who you are, but what you stand for. Zara felt a chill despite the warm water around her. She didn't know what awaited her back in Lumra, but deep down, she knew Lena's words held truth. Her journey was far from over. While Zara trained beneath the waves, Lumra was unraveling. The absence of the king's youngest daughter did little to quiet the whispers in the palace. Instead, the accusations against her only fueled a growing fear among the people. Zara's curse lingers, they murmured in the market square. Even without her, misfortune plagues the kingdom. Bako, the ambitious courtier, had seized his chance to tighten his grip on power. He became the king's closest advisor, whispering poisonous suggestions into his ear. Your Majesty, Bako said one evening, bowing low before the throne, the crops have withered despite the rains. The villagers whisper of rebellion. The gods demand greater sacrifices to cleanse the land. King Jaja, his once proud shoulders now stooped with worry, sighed heavily. I have already given so much, Bako. What more do they want from me? Bako's eyes gleamed with cunning. Perhaps it is not what we offer, but who. The spirit of the child you cast out may yet haunt us. We must purify the palace by any means necessary. The king's face darkened. Though he had ordered Zara's exile, guilt gnawed at his heart. He often dreamt of her laughter echoing through the palace halls, of her small hands clutching his as they walked through the gardens. "Enough," he said, his voice sharp. "Do not speak of her again." But the damage was done. Bako's words spread like wildfire, fueling unrest. In Tula, the once thriving village near the palace, life had grown harder. Farmers struggled to coax even the smallest crops from the earth. The river that once ran clear and strong now trickled weakly, its waters murky and foul. Among the villagers, Hilda, an elderly woman known for her wisdom, shook her head at the spreading rumors. She sat outside her hut, weaving a basket, when a group of young women approached her. "Hilda," one of them said, her voice trembling, "do you think Zara truly cursed us?" Hilda paused, her gnarled hands stilling. "Zara was no witch," she said firmly. "She had a light about her, a gift the gods themselves gave her. This darkness we face now has nothing to do with that child." "Then why has the land turned against us?" another asked. Hilda's eyes narrowed as she looked toward the distant palace. "The land reflects the heart of its ruler. When a king's soul is troubled, the kingdom suffers. King Jaja's grief and doubt have opened the door to chaos. If he does not find peace, neither will Lumara." Her words sent a ripple of unease through the group. The villagers had always revered the king, but now they began to wonder if he was truly capable of leading them through this storm. Meanwhile, in the palace, Bako's schemes were reaching new heights. He began consolidating power, replacing loyal officials with his own allies. The once united council of elders was now divided, their voices drowned out by Bako's manipulations. The queen, a quiet but observant woman named Maro, grew suspicious. She had watched Bako's rise with unease, and now she saw the cracks spreading through the kingdom. One night, as the king slept fitfully beside her, she slipped from their chambers and made her way to the royal archives. By candlelight, Maro pored over ancient scrolls and texts, searching for answers. Her fingers traced faded ink as she read about the bond between the king and the land, a bond that could only be healed by truth and balance. Her heart ached as she thought of Zara. She had loved the girl as her own, and the pain of losing her still lingered. "If only I had spoken up," she whispered to herself. But it was not too late. Somewhere deep in her heart, Maro felt a faint hope. Zara was not gone forever. Far beneath the waves, Zara felt a strange tug at her chest, as though invisible strings were pulling her toward the surface. She stood on a ridge of coral, staring up at the shimmering light above. "What is it, child?" Lena asked, her voice carrying a note of concern. "I don't know," Zara replied, clutching her chest. "It feels like something is calling me." Lena swam closer, her eyes narrowing. "The bond between you and your land cannot be broken, no matter how far you travel. The kingdom suffers, and it reaches for you." Zara turned to her mentor, her face filled with uncertainty. "I'm not ready to go back. I've learned so much, but I'm still afraid. What if they still hate me?" Lena placed a hand on Zara's shoulder, her grip firm. "Fear is a part of every journey. But remember what I told you, your gift is not for yourself alone. If you choose to return, it must be with the courage to use your power, no matter what they think of you." Zara nodded, though doubt lingered in her heart. The mermaid's words gave her strength, but the thought of facing her father, Bako, and the people who had turned against her filled her with dread. "I will return," Zara said finally, her voice steady. "But I need to be stronger. Teach me more, Lena. Help me prepare." The mermaid smiled, her pride evident. "Very well, little one. The ocean still has much to teach you. Let us begin." Zara's heart raced with anticipation as Lena led her deeper into the ocean's embrace. The waters grew colder and darker, but Zara's fear was slowly replaced with determination. She had come so far since the day she was cast into the sea. She had learned to listen to the whispers of the waves, to call upon the currents to carry her, and to feel the pulse of the ocean as if it were her own heartbeat. For days, they trained, swimming through underwater caverns where the water glowed with strange, ethereal light. Lena taught her the deeper secrets of the sea, how to communicate with the creatures that lived in its depths, how to summon storms, and how to calm the wildest waves. Zara could feel her power growing, a magic as ancient as the ocean itself. One evening, as they sat atop a coral ridge, Lena turned to her with a serious expression. Zara, you have learned much, but now you must understand the true nature of your gift. You are not just a child of water, you are a bridge between the sea and the land. Your power has the ability to heal, but it can also destroy, depending on how you use it. Zara's brow furrowed in confusion. But I want to heal. I want to help my people. Lena nodded. That is the path of a true leader, Zara. But to heal, you must understand the darkness that threatens to consume the kingdom. The pain, the fear, the anger that has grown since your exile, it is a poison that has seeped into the hearts of those you once loved. Zara's stomach twisted at the thought. She had always believed that love and kindness could conquer any darkness. But Lena's words made her realize that things weren't so simple. She had seen the fear in her father's eyes, the way he had turned away from her when the court's accusations became too loud. Zara had always wanted to protect her family and her kingdom, but now she wondered if she could. You are ready now, Lena said, her voice gentle but firm. Your gift is strong enough to bring balance. But you must face the truth of who you are, of the power that lies within you. Zara looked up at the dark horizon where the sea met the sky. She had never felt so torn. Her desire to return to Lumara and prove herself was strong, but the fear of facing her father, the courtiers, and the kingdom's wrath was even stronger. Could she stand against the ones who had betrayed her? Could she show them that she was not the witch they believed her to be? You must decide now, Lena said, her voice fading into the rhythm of the ocean. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. Zara closed her eyes, breathing deeply. She thought of her village, Tula, and of the people who had once praised her for her kindness. She thought of her father, the king, and of how much he had loved her before the darkness of the palace had consumed him. She thought of the court, their whispers, their lies, and the chaos that had consumed Lumara in her absence. With a deep breath, Zara made her decision. I will return, she said, her voice firm with resolve. I will show them that I am not a witch. I will heal my kingdom, no matter the cost. Lena's gaze softened with pride. You are stronger than you think, Zara. But remember, healing comes with sacrifice. Be prepared to face the truth, even if it hurts. Zara nodded, a sense of calm washing over her. She was ready. It was time to return to Lumara. The journey back to the surface was swift, the waters parting as Zara swam toward the light. She could feel the pulse of the kingdom, the energy of the land calling to her, beckoning her home. But as she broke through the surface, she was met with an unexpected sight. The once beautiful coast of Lumara was now dark and foreboding, the skies thick with storm clouds. The wind howled through the trees, and the air was heavy with the smell of smoke. Zara's heart sank. The land itself seemed to mourn her absence. She waded through the shallows, her feet sinking into the wet sand, and looked toward the palace in the distance. The great stone walls of King Jaja's home stood tall, but they were cracked and weathered, as though the very structure of the kingdom was crumbling. Zara felt the familiar tug in her chest, the bond between her and her father, the king. She knew she could not wait any longer. She had to face the truth. At the palace gates, Zara was met by a group of guards. Their faces were grim, their eyes filled with suspicion. One of them stepped forward, his hand on his spear. Halt! You are not welcome here. Zara stood tall, her voice steady. I have come to speak to my father. The guard hesitated, glancing nervously at his comrades. Your father? The king has no child. The one who called herself his daughter is no longer of this world. Zara's heart clenched. She had hoped for a warmer welcome, but the pain in the guard's voice confirmed her worst fears. The kingdom was in turmoil, and she had no place here anymore. I am Zara, she said, her voice carrying the weight of all the days she had spent beneath the waves. I am the daughter of King Jaja. And I have returned to save this kingdom from the darkness that has taken root. The guards stepped back, their faces filled with doubt and fear. The child of water, one of them muttered. The one they say is cursed. Zara nodded, standing tall in the face of their fear. Yes, I am the one they call a witch. But I am not what they think. I have come to heal the kingdom. The guard eyed her warily, but he could see the strength in her eyes, the same strength that had once made her beloved by the people of Tula. The king, he is not well. He has fallen into despair. Zara's heart pounded. This was worse than she had imagined. She had to act quickly. I will see my father, she said firmly. And I will bring him back. Zara walked through the grand halls of the palace, her steps echoing in the silence. The once beautiful corridors were now dim and cold, the tapestries faded, the light from the windows muted by the storm clouds outside. The air was thick with an oppressive sadness, as though the very palace itself was grieving. At last, she reached the king's chambers. The guards outside the door stepped aside without a word, and Zara pushed the door open. King Jaja sat slumped in a chair, his eyes dull, his once majestic robes now tattered and stained. He looked like a man who had aged 100 years in the time she had been gone. His face was gaunt, his hands trembling as they rested on the arms of the chair. "Father," Zara whispered, her heart aching at the sight of him. The king looked up, his eyes widening in shock and disbelief. "Zara, is it truly you?" "I have returned, father," she said softly. "I have come to help you, to help Lumara." The king's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I had lost you forever. The kingdom, it is falling apart. I was wrong to listen to their lies. I should have never cast you away." Zara knelt beside him, taking his trembling hands in hers. "It's not too late, father. We can save Lumara together. But you must trust me. You must believe in me." The king nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I do believe in you, Zara. I have always believed in you." Zara's heart swelled with a mixture of relief and determination as she looked into her father's weary eyes. King Jaja, the man who had once ruled with strength and pride, now seemed a shadow of his former self. The weight of his regret was visible in every wrinkle, every tired line on his face. But Zara knew this was only the beginning. She had to help him reclaim the kingdom, and reclaim the trust of the people. "Father," she said softly, "we don't have much time. The kingdom is falling apart. The people, the land, even the river, it all needs your strength. But you must trust me now, more than ever." King Jaja squeezed her hands, his voice raspy. "I have failed them, Zara. I failed you. I let fear and doubt turn me against my own daughter." He looked down, his eyes clouded with shame. "I listened to those who told me you were a curse, a danger to us all. I let their lies shape my heart, and now our kingdom is paying the price." Zara shook her head, her gaze unwavering. "You weren't the only one who believed the lies. I was the one they cast aside, the one they called a witch. But I am not a curse, father. I have power, water's power, and it's not just for destruction. It can heal. But you must believe in me, in what I can do." The king looked at her, his face full of sorrow and regret. "How can I ever make up for what I've done, Zara? How can I make things right?" Zara took a deep breath, her mind racing as she tried to formulate a plan. She knew the road ahead would not be easy. The kingdom had been poisoned by the courtiers' lies, by the fear that had gripped the hearts of the people. But she also knew that if she could reconnect the land with its rightful balance, everything could be healed. "We start with you," Zara said, her voice steady. "You are the heart of Lumara, father. If your heart is weak, the kingdom will never recover. But if you trust me, if you allow me to help you heal, we can bring the balance back." King Jaja's eyes filled with tears as he looked at her, his voice a whisper. "I am so sorry, Zara. I was blind." Zara smiled softly, her hand on his. "It's not too late. But we need to show the people the truth. We need to show them that the magic I carry is not a curse, but a gift. And together, we can restore the kingdom." As father and daughter sat in the dimly lit chamber, a plan began to take shape. Zara knew that she couldn't simply walk into the palace and demand that the courtiers accept her. No, that would take time. She would need to show them, to prove her worth, her power, not just to the courtiers, but to the people of Lumara. But how? "I can feel the land suffering," Zara murmured, standing and walking to the window. She gazed out at the once vibrant city that now seemed so distant, so broken. The river is weak, the crops withered, the very air is thick with sorrow. This is not just the result of one mistake. This is the result of years of imbalance. King Jaja joined her at the window, his face solemn. The people are afraid. They fear the unknown, and they fear you. They believe you are the cause of all this misfortune. Zara turned to him, her eyes filled with determination. I am the cause of nothing. The imbalance started long before I was cast away. But I can help. I can bring back the rain, the harvest, the joy. But it will take time, and it will take trust. You need to stand with me, Father. Show the people that you believe in me. The king sighed deeply, his shoulders heavy with the weight of his past decisions. I don't know if I can earn their trust again, Zara. I fear it may be too late. Zara smiled, a glimmer of hope shining through her eyes. It's never too late, Father. The people need to see your faith in me. They need to see that you believe in the power of water, the power of healing. And so, with a plan in place, Zara set about showing Lumra her power, not through force, but through the land's own natural rhythms. The next morning, she stood in the palace garden with a single, delicate flower in her hand. The petals were wilted, its life nearly drained. She closed her eyes, her fingers brushing against the petals as she summoned the energy of the water she had come to understand so well. A soft, gentle current seemed to flow from her fingertips, swirling around the flower. Slowly, the petals began to open again, the color returning, vibrant and full of life. The garden, once dark and dry, began to come alive with color as the plants and flowers responded to her call. The sight of this miracle did not go unnoticed. Word spread quickly through the kingdom that the lost princess had returned, and that she was capable of bringing life back to the land. But there were still many who doubted her. Among them were the courtiers who had orchestrated her exile. In the palace, Bako had already begun making plans of his own. He saw Zara's return as a threat to his newly formed rule, and he would stop at nothing to maintain his power. He had convinced King Jaja that Zara's power was dangerous, that it could bring even greater destruction to Lumra if left unchecked. Now, he had to act before Zara could sway the king's heart completely. One evening, as Zara worked in the garden, using her magic to restore the land around the palace, Bako approached the king in secret. Your Majesty, Bako said, bowing low. I fear the presence of the princess may be more dangerous than we thought. The people are already beginning to see her as a savior. But there are whispers that she is using forbidden magic, that she is calling the waters to do her bidding. This could bring even more ruin upon us. King Jaja frowned, his face filled with uncertainty. I don't know what to believe anymore, Bako. I see the changes in the land, but I fear what might happen if I allow Zara too much power. Bako seized the opportunity. The people are afraid. We must act now, before it's too late. We cannot let her lead us down a path of destruction. But King Jaja, torn between his guilt and his desire to protect his daughter, could not bring himself to believe that Zara meant harm. I will speak with her, he said quietly. I will see for myself. Zara had felt a strange tension in the air as soon as she finished her work in the garden. The familiar pull of the land's suffering had subsided for a moment, but she knew the danger was not yet over. As night fell, she stood near the river, gazing out at the moonlit water. She could feel her power growing stronger with each passing day, but she also knew that there were those who would try to stop her. She was ready for what was to come. The kingdom would be restored, but she would have to confront the lies and the fears that had held it captive for far too long. And so, under the silent gaze of the stars, Zara prepared to face the truth of her past and the challenge of her future. The moon hung high over the kingdom of Lumra, casting a soft silver light over the once bustling streets. Tonight, the air was still, almost expectant. Zara stood by the riverbank, her fingers trailing through the cool, flowing waters, listening to the whispers of the current. The land felt at peace for the first time in years, yet Zara knew the calm was fragile. It wouldn't be long before the courtiers moved again to stop her, to sow fear in the hearts of the people. As Zara turned away from the river, a voice broke the silence. Zara. She stiffened but didn't turn around. It was her father. King Jaja emerged from the shadows, his gait slow but steady. Despite the years that had aged him, the king still carried the noble air that once commanded the kingdom. But tonight, his eyes were filled with doubt, a doubt that no amount of royal power could erase. Zara faced him. "Father, you came." "I had to," the king replied, his voice heavy with emotion. "I am torn, Zara. Bako has spoken to me. He says that your powers could destroy this kingdom. He says you're calling on forces that no one can control. He says." The king hesitated, looking at his daughter as though he were searching for a sign. "He says you are the cause of everything that's gone wrong." Zara's heart sank. She could feel the sting of his words, even though she knew they came from a place of fear and confusion. Bako's lies were spreading, like poison, and now even her father was questioning her. "No," Zara said firmly. "It is not my power that is destroying Lumara, father. It is the imbalance, the fear and distrust that has gripped this kingdom for so long. You've seen what I can do. You saw the garden bloom under my touch. I am here to heal this land, not harm it." The king's eyes flickered with doubt. "I want to believe you, Zara. But how can I be sure? The people are afraid. They are whispering that you are a witch, that you're controlling the waters to bring storms. How do I protect them from this magic?" Zara stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "Father, I am not a witch. I am your daughter. The magic I carry is a gift, one that has been in our family for generations. The waters do not obey me. I obey the waters. I listen to them, and they listen to me. This power, this gift, is not evil. It is nature. And it can heal, just as it can destroy. It is all in how we choose to use it." The king stared at her for a long moment, as though he were weighing her words against everything he had been told. He seemed torn, as if the weight of the kingdom's troubles had pushed him to the edge, and now Zara's words were the only thing keeping him from falling. "I have to trust you, Zara," King Jaja whispered. "But what if you are wrong? What if I am wrong?" Zara's voice softened. "Then we face the consequences together, father. But I won't leave. I will stay here and help you heal this kingdom. I won't let it fall apart because of lies." For the first time in a long while, the king nodded. It was a small gesture, but it was enough. He took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping as though a great weight had been lifted from him. "I will stand with you, Zara," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I will tell the courtiers the truth. We will face this together." The next day, the court was summoned. Word spread quickly through the kingdom that the king would address the rumors that had plagued Zara since her return. People gathered in the palace courtyard, the atmosphere thick with uncertainty. Some believed in Zara, some feared her power, and others simply wanted answers. Zara stood at her father's side, her heart pounding. She could feel the weight of every eye on her, every whisper that seemed to hang in the air. Bako was there, standing among the courtiers with a cold, calculating expression. He had worked for too long to tear Zara down, and she knew he would not stop now. The king stepped forward, his voice booming as he addressed the crowd. "People of Lumara," he began, his tone commanding yet filled with sorrow. "I have failed you. I have allowed fear and doubt to cloud my judgment. I listened to the wrong voices and turned my back on my own daughter." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Zara could feel the eyes on her, some filled with pity, others with fear. "But now," the king continued, his voice growing stronger, "I stand before you, and I ask for your trust. Zara is not a curse. She is not a witch. She is my daughter, and she has come to heal this kingdom." Bako stepped forward, his voice dripping with venom. "Your Majesty, this is a grave mistake. The waters obey her. She controls them, calls upon them, and brings storms. We have seen the evidence with our own eyes. How can you trust such power?" Zara didn't flinch. She stepped forward, her eyes meeting Bako's with unwavering confidence. "The only storm I bring is the one caused by fear and distrust. I have no control over the waters, but I have learned to listen to them. I have brought life to the garden, and I can bring life back to this kingdom. Bako sneered, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He had seen Zara's power, felt it, and though he would never admit it, he feared it. The people, however, had not seen enough. They were still afraid. Enough. Zara's voice rang out across the courtyard. She raised her arms, and for a moment, the crowd fell silent. You all know the truth. I have no intention of harming you. The waters do not serve me. They serve the earth. They heal it. And if you allow me to, I will heal Lumara. She closed her eyes and raised her hands to the sky. A soft breeze began to blow, the air around her shifting as if responding to her call. Slowly, the sky began to clear. The storm clouds that had loomed over the kingdom for days began to part, and the sun broke through. The air grew warmer, the scent of the earth returning to life. Zara turned to the people, her voice steady but full of emotion. This is the power of healing. It comes not from control, but from balance. The land, the waters, the sky, they are all connected. If you trust me, if you trust in the balance, I will restore the kingdom to what it once was. For a long moment, there was silence. The people of Lumara stood still, unsure of what to believe. Then, one by one, they began to speak. Whispers at first, then louder, more confident. Some began to nod, others to murmur their agreement. The king, watching from beside Zara, finally spoke. It is true. I believe in my daughter. I believe in the power she carries. And together, we will restore Lumara. Despite the king's words, Zara knew that the fight was far from over. Bako and the other courtiers would not let go of their power so easily. There would be more trials, more battles to face. But for the first time in years, Zara felt a spark of hope. She could see the change, even if it was small. The kingdom was beginning to believe in her again. She turned to her father, a quiet smile playing at the corners of her lips. We are only just beginning, father. We will face whatever comes next together. King Jaja smiled back, the first real smile he had worn in years. Together. The sun had barely risen, casting a soft glow over the kingdom of Lumara. The land, which had long been weighed down by the curse of fear and doubt, was beginning to stir with new life. The crops began to grow tall again, their green leaves swaying gently in the morning breeze. The once dying river now flowed with strength, its waters clear and pure. And yet, despite the miracles Zara had worked, there was still a heaviness in the air, a warning, a reminder that not all was as it seemed. Zara stood at the edge of the palace, gazing at the kingdom she had once called home. It had been only a few days since her father had spoken in her defense, and already there were signs of change. But Zara could feel something deeper, a stirring within her that was both powerful and troubling. The magic she carried, the gift of water, was not without its costs. Each time she used it, she felt herself being pulled farther from the earth, farther from the balance she so desperately sought to restore. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice behind her. It was her father, King Jaja. His steps were heavy, his face drawn with concern. Zara, he began, his tone serious, I've heard rumors. There are some who still do not believe in you, in the power you carry. Bako and his followers are not giving up. They will try to turn the people against you. Zara turned to face him, her eyes filled with determination. I know, father. But I cannot let fear rule this kingdom any longer. I will not hide my magic, and I will not let them tear us apart. The king sighed, his gaze drifting to the horizon. I fear it's not just their fear that will destroy us. There is a price to this power, Zara. The waters, the magic you wield, they are not infinite. Each time you call upon them, you risk more than just your own strength. You risk the balance of everything. Zara's heart tightened. She had felt it, the strain, the toll it took on her body and spirit each time she called the waters. But she had pushed the thought aside, focused on the immediate need of restoring Lumara. Now, standing before her father, the reality of it hit her harder than ever. I don't care about the price, Zara said quietly, her voice full of resolve. I will pay it if it means saving Lumara. Her father looked at her with deep sadness. And what of the people? What will they think if they see the cost of your magic? What will they say when they see you weakened, broken? Zara shook her head. They will see strength, father. Strength in the face of everything that has been taken from us. They will see that I am willing to sacrifice everything for the kingdom. The king placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch gentle but firm. I know you would, Zara. But please, remember that this power, this gift, is not yours alone to carry. The land, the river, the sky, they are all connected. And you cannot bear this burden alone. Zara's eyes filled with understanding. She had spent so long trying to fix everything by herself, trying to restore the balance of Lumara with her own hands. But her father was right. She couldn't do it alone. The kingdom, the land, the waters, they were all part of a greater whole. And she had to learn to trust in that balance, to allow others to help her carry the weight of it. That evening, as Zara sat by the river, she felt a strange pull deep within her. The water was calm, but beneath the surface, she could sense a shift, a ripple, a current that seemed to beckon her forward. She closed her eyes and let the pull guide her, feeling the connection between herself and the water grow stronger. But as she reached out, she felt something else, a sharp, biting pain in her chest. It was as if the very magic she had called upon was turning against her, draining her strength. She gasped, clutching her chest as the pain deepened. The river, once so full of life, seemed to darken around her. The waters no longer flowed with their usual gentle current. Instead, they churned, restless and angry. No, Zara whispered, her breath coming in shallow gasps. This is not how it's supposed to be. In that moment, she understood. The magic she wielded, the power of the water, was not a simple gift. It came with a cost, a price she had not fully understood until now. The balance was fragile, and each time she used her magic, it demanded more from her. The river, the earth, it was all interconnected. And if she used her power without care, without balance, it would not only harm her but the very land she sought to protect. With great effort, Zara pulled herself away from the water, stumbling back onto the shore. She gasped for air, her body trembling as the pain slowly receded. She knew she had to be more careful, that the magic she wielded was not something to be taken lightly. But just as she was beginning to recover, a voice broke through the silence. Zara. It was Emma, her friend and confidant, rushing toward her. Zara saw the concern in Emma's eyes, and for a moment, she felt a pang of guilt. She had kept so much from Emma, tried to shield her from the true weight of her power. But now, she had no choice but to reveal the truth. I'm fine, Emma, Zara said weakly, though she knew it wasn't true. I need to be more careful. Emma knelt beside her, her hands warm and steady on Zara's shoulders. You don't have to carry this alone, Zara. We're all here for you. The people, your father, even the land itself. You're not the only one who feels the pain of imbalance. Zara shook her head, feeling a tear slip down her cheek. But I am the one with the power. I'm the one who must fix it. Emma took her hands, her grip firm and supportive. No, Zara. You don't have to fix everything by yourself. You have the strength to bring balance, yes. But the true strength lies in sharing the burden. We can help you. The kingdom can help you. Zara looked at Emma, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had been so focused on the burden of her power, so consumed by the idea that she had to do everything alone. But Emma was right. She didn't have to carry it by herself. Thank you, Zara whispered, her voice shaky. I don't know what I would do without you. Emma smiled softly. You won't have to. We're in this together. As the days passed, Zara began to embrace the idea of sharing the burden. She turned to her father, to Emma, and to the people of Lumara for help. They worked together to restore balance to the land, to heal the river, to plant crops that would feed the people. Slowly but surely, the kingdom began to recover. But the shadows of the courtiers still loomed large. Bako had not given up. He was still working behind the scenes, trying to convince the people that Zara's magic was a threat. The price of her power had not yet been fully revealed to the kingdom, and Bako would stop at nothing to use that fear against her. Zara knew the road ahead would be long and difficult. There would be many challenges to face, many sacrifices to make. But she also knew that she wasn't alone. With her father, her friends, and the people of Lumra by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. The days that followed Zara's decision to share the burden of her power were filled with hope and hard work. The kingdom of Lumra, once on the brink of destruction, was beginning to heal. The crops in the fields flourished, the rivers ran clear once again, and the skies, once filled with storm clouds, now sparkled with the sun's warm rays. Yet, as Zara worked to restore balance and peace, a new kind of storm was brewing on the horizon, one that threatened not the land itself, but the very heart of Lumra. It had been a week since Zara and Emma had joined forces to heal the kingdom, but Zara could feel the weight of the courtiers' disdain growing heavier with each passing day. Bako had not given up. If anything, he had grown more determined, more cunning in his attempts to turn the people against her. Zara knew that Bako's fear of her magic had driven him to extremes, and he would not stop until he had eradicated her influence entirely. That evening, as Zara and Emma sat in the garden near the river, the wind shifted suddenly. Zara stood up, her heart beating faster as she sensed something was wrong. Emma looked at her in confusion. "What is it, Zara?" she asked, standing as well. "What's happening?" Zara closed her eyes, reaching out with her senses, feeling the rhythm of the earth, the pulse of the water. The air around them crackled, charged with a strange energy. And then, a whisper of danger passed through her, a warning deep within her bones. "It's Bako," Zara murmured. "He's moving against us. He's stirring the kingdom against me." Before Emma could respond, a loud crash sounded from the direction of the palace. The ground trembled slightly under their feet, and the sky above darkened ominously. Zara's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. The very air seemed to hum with tension. "Come, Emma," Zara said urgently. "We need to get to the palace. Now." Inside the palace, chaos was erupting. Courtiers rushed through the corridors, their faces panicked, their voices filled with fear. King Jaja stood in the center of the throne room, his expression grim as Bako, flanked by several loyalists, stepped forward, a wicked gleam in his eyes. "Your Majesty," Bako began, his voice dripping with false concern. "It has become clear that the kingdom cannot survive with this magic in our midst. Zara's powers are too dangerous. The people are in fear, Your Majesty. They fear what they do not understand. We must act swiftly before it's too late." King Jaja's face was pale, his eyes filled with conflict. Zara could see that he was torn, but the fear that Bako had sowed in his heart was undeniable. The court murmured in agreement, their voices rising as they rallied behind Bako's words. Zara entered the room just in time to hear the final part of Bako's speech. Her father's gaze flickered toward her, and she saw the doubt in his eyes. She felt her heart twist with the pain of betrayal, but she forced herself to stay calm. "Father, no," Zara said, her voice steady but filled with desperation. "Please, listen to me. I am not a threat. I only seek to restore balance to Lumra." But Bako's voice cut through hers. "The people fear her, Your Majesty," he said, his words like daggers. "If you do not act now, this kingdom will fall apart. Zara's powers are uncontainable. She is using magic that we do not understand. If we do not stop her, the storm that has already begun will swallow us whole." Zara's heart pounded in her chest as she saw the indecision in her father's eyes. She stepped forward, her voice pleading. "Father, I promise you, everything I've done has been to help this kingdom. The land, the waters, they are not my enemies. I am not using them to destroy us. I am restoring the balance. If you can only see that." But King Jaja shook his head, his hand raised to silence her. "Zara, I do not know what to believe anymore. The people are frightened, and I must do what I think is right for Lumra." Zara's heart dropped. This was not the man she had once known. This was a king, ruled by fear, unwilling to trust the daughter he had once loved. A king too easily swayed by the whispers of those like Bako. "Father, Zara said, her voice filled with quiet anguish, "You can't listen to them. You know me. You know my heart." But her father turned away from her, his voice cold. "I am sorry, Zara. I must protect my people. And that means putting an end to this magic." With those words, the world around Zara seemed to crumble. The air grew thick with tension, and she felt the energy of the storm grow stronger. But it was not a storm of nature, it was a storm of betrayal. Her father, the one person who had once believed in her, had turned against her. In that moment, something inside Zara snapped. She felt the magic surge within her, felt the raw power of the water as it called to her. But this time, it was different. It was not the calm, healing magic she had used to restore the kingdom. This time, the magic burned with anger, with the force of all the hurt and fear that had built up inside her over the years. "Enough!" Zara shouted, her voice ringing with authority. The ground trembled beneath her feet as the river that ran through the kingdom surged with sudden force, rising up in great waves. "Zara, stop!" Emma cried, rushing to her side. But Zara couldn't hear her. The magic was roaring inside her, taking control, threatening to explode. She needed to make them understand, she needed them to see what was at stake. But Bako stepped forward, a smug smile on his face. "You see? This is the power you are allowing to run rampant, Your Majesty. This is the true face of the witch." "No!" Zara cried, her voice filled with pain. "This is not me. I do not control the waters. The waters listen to me because I listen to them. They are not my weapon, they are part of this kingdom, part of the earth itself." But as she spoke, the magic grew wilder. The river rose higher, threatening to overflow its banks. The winds howled around them, and the sky darkened with clouds. The storm had arrived, and Zara was no longer sure if she could control it. The kingdom was on the edge of ruin, and Zara had only one choice left, to either give in to the power that had saved her or risk losing everything she loved. The winds howled like the angry cries of forgotten spirits, and the earth beneath Zara's feet quaked with a deep, unsettling tremor. The sky, once a peaceful blue, was now choked with dark, swirling clouds, pressing in like a heavy weight. The river that had once been the kingdom's lifeblood now roared with wild fury, sending waves crashing against the palace walls. The storm that Zara had unwittingly summoned was no longer a mere display of power, it was a manifestation of all her fear, pain, and frustration. Zara's heart pounded in her chest as she stood at the center of the throne room, her arms outstretched, her voice hoarse from shouting. But despite the fury of the storm, despite the chaos she had unleashed, there was something deep inside her that refused to let go. She was more than just the magic, more than just the power that had shaped her destiny. But how could she make them understand that? How could she make her father, the people, and Bako see the truth? Bako's face twisted into a cruel smile as he stood at the edge of the throne room, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "This is the power you want to put your faith in, Your Majesty," he sneered, his voice thick with contempt. "This storm is proof of her witchcraft. It is proof that she cannot be trusted. The people will never follow someone like this." Zara's heart clenched at his words. She could feel the deep, painful truth in them. The people did fear her. They feared what they didn't understand. And now, her father, the one person she had hoped would stand by her, was caving to that fear. "Father," she said, her voice breaking with the weight of the moment. "Please. You know me. This power, this magic, I don't control it. It is a gift from the earth, the water, the sky. It is not a curse, and it is not a weapon. It is part of me, and it is part of this kingdom. We can make this work together." But King Jaja stood motionless, his face a mask of indecision. I don't know what to believe anymore, Zara," he murmured, his voice full of sorrow. "The people are frightened. They are calling for action. And Bako, he has shown them only the worst of what you can do." Zara's heart shattered at the sight of her father, the man who had once been her greatest protector, now caught in the web of fear that Bako had woven. She reached out, but the wind ripped her words away. "I'm not the enemy, father," she said, her voice firm but filled with pain. "The enemy is fear. And if we don't face it together, we'll lose everything." Her words hung in the air like a prayer, but her father's expression remained unchanged. The storm raged around them, each gust of wind stronger than the last, as if echoing Zara's own inner turmoil. She could feel it, the weight of her magic, the deep, gnawing hunger that had taken root in her heart. It was more than the river's fury. It was her own fear, her own frustration, rising to meet the storm. And then, with a sudden surge of power, the river responded to her emotions. The water, which had been churning violently, shot up like a wave of fury, crashing against the walls of the palace. The sky above darkened further, as if the storm was reaching into the very heart of Lumara. The earth beneath Zara's feet groaned, as if it, too, was struggling to bear the weight of the storm. "Zara!" Emma cried, running toward her. "Stop. You're losing control." But it was too late. Zara could feel the power slipping away from her, the magic turning darker, more unpredictable. Her body trembled as the storm reached its peak, the winds tearing at her skin, the water surging around her like a whirlpool. She was no longer just Zara, daughter of King Jaja. She was the storm itself. In the distance, she heard the voices of the courtiers, their cries of fear and panic rising above the wind. The palace was being torn apart by the very magic that had once saved it. Zara could feel the destruction spreading, and a deep, gnawing guilt began to claw at her heart. She had wanted to save her people. She had wanted to restore balance. But now, all she had done was make things worse. "Father," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the storm. "I didn't mean for this to happen." But King Jaja, standing frozen by the throne, finally spoke, his voice filled with sorrow and fear. "Zara, stop. Please. We cannot continue like this. We cannot let this power destroy us." The words hit Zara like a blow to the chest. She staggered back, her vision blurring with tears, as the storm raged on around her. This wasn't the future she had hoped for. She had wanted to bring healing, to restore the balance of the land. But now, all she had done was unleash the very chaos she had tried so desperately to avoid. Just then, a voice called out to her. It was familiar, comforting, and strong. "Zara." She turned, her heart lifting at the sound of the voice. It was Lena, the mermaid who had saved her from the sea. The mermaid's radiant figure emerged from the swirling chaos, her presence like a beacon of calm in the midst of the storm. Lena's voice was clear and unwavering. "Zara, you cannot allow this storm to take over," Lena said, her eyes filled with understanding. "You are stronger than this. You have the power to stop it. You have the power to find the balance again." Zara looked at Lena, her heart aching with the knowledge that the mermaid had been right all along. The power she wielded was not something to be feared, it was something to be embraced, something to be respected. But it could not be wielded in anger or fear. It had to be used with love, with care, and with understanding. Lena extended her hand, her voice gentle but firm. "Come with me, Zara. The magic is part of you, but it is also part of the earth. You must learn to listen to it, to honor it. You are not the storm. You are the balance." Zara hesitated for a moment, the storm still raging around her. But then, with a deep breath, she stepped forward, reaching for Lena's outstretched hand. As their fingers touched, the storm seemed to quiet, the winds dying down and the water receding. Zara could feel the power shift within her, the rage and fear slowly subsiding. She closed her eyes and allowed herself to listen, to truly listen, to the river, to the earth, to the magic that coursed through her. The calm was slow to return, but it came. The wind softened, the water settled, and the storm finally passed. The skies began to clear, and the sun, pale but steady, began to break through the clouds. Zara stood there, breathing heavily, her heart racing. The storm was gone, but the weight of what had happened still pressed down on her. She turned to her father, her eyes filled with regret. "I'm sorry, Father," she said softly. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to save Lumara." King Jaja looked at her, his face etched with sorrow, but also a hint of understanding. "Zara," he began, his voice shaky. I was wrong. I was afraid. But you are right. This power, your magic, it is not a curse. It is part of you. And it is part of Lumara. We will figure this out together. Tears welled in Zara's eyes as she heard her father's words. For the first time in a long while, she felt the weight of the kingdom's fears begin to lift. She was not alone. She had her father, Emma, Lena, and the people of Lumara to help her face the challenges ahead. But the storm had not passed without leaving scars. Zara knew that the kingdom's journey was far from over. There would be more battles to fight, more doubts to overcome, and more lessons to learn. But for the first time, Zara believed she could face them. The balance, she realized, was not just about the magic. It was about trust. And she was ready to earn that trust, one step at a time. The calm that followed the storm was not immediate peace. It was more like the quiet after a great battle, where the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. The skies were clear now, but Zara's heart still carried the weight of everything that had happened: the storm, her father's doubt, the courtier's fear. Though the winds had died down, the storm inside her had only just begun to calm. Zara stood before her father, her hands trembling at her sides. The air was heavy with the unspoken words that hung between them. King Jaja's eyes softened as he looked at his daughter, but the lines of worry on his face were still sharp, as if the very responsibility of the kingdom was too heavy a mantle for him to bear. "I should have trusted you, Zara," he said quietly, his voice thick with regret. "But I was afraid. I was afraid of losing the kingdom. Of losing control." Zara felt a pang in her chest at his words. She understood. Her father had always been a man of great strength, a ruler who had worked tirelessly to protect the kingdom of Lumara. But his fear, his doubts, had led him to make choices that had almost torn the land apart. She could see now that he wasn't the enemy, it was fear itself that had clouded his judgment. The fear of the unknown, of the magic that Zara wielded, and of the changes it would bring. "You're not the enemy, father," Zara said softly, her voice steady despite the swirling emotions inside her. "Neither are the people. They are afraid, but I will show them that this magic is not to be feared." Her father nodded slowly, his eyes full of sorrow. "I failed you, Zara. I didn't protect you the way I should have. I listened to the wrong people." For a moment, the two of them stood in silence, each lost in their thoughts. Then, King Jaja spoke again, his voice firmer this time. "Zara," he began, "I need to know. What do you plan to do now? The people have seen your power, and they are afraid. Bako's influence is strong. He's spreading fear and doubt among the court." Zara looked down, thinking deeply. Her magic, her gift, was part of the very fabric of Lumara. But she couldn't just wield it like a weapon to force people into submission. She needed to show them that it was a force for good, a means of healing, not destruction. She couldn't just tell them, it had to be something they felt in their bones, something they would understand without words. "I'll go to the people," Zara said finally, her voice steady with newfound resolve. "I'll show them the truth. I'll heal the land, not through force, but through trust." Her father raised an eyebrow. "How do you plan to do that?" Zara smiled, a small but confident smile. "I will speak to them, father. I will go to the villages, and I will show them the power of the earth, the water, and the sky. I will show them that my magic is not their enemy, it is their ally." Her father sighed, still clearly torn. "And Bako? Bako will never stop, but I won't let him turn the people against us. I won't let fear rule Lumara. We've lived in fear for too long. It's time to change that." King Jaja looked at his daughter for a long time, as if seeing her in a new light. "You are your mother's daughter," he said softly. "You have her strength, her heart. I don't know if I can follow you down this path, Zara, but I will support you. I will stand by you, as much as I can." Tears welled up in Zara's eyes at the words she had longed to hear. Her father, the king of Lumara, was willing to put his trust in her, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. For the first time, she felt the weight of his love, and for the first time, she felt that she wasn't alone. "Thank you, father," she said, her voice full of gratitude. Together, we will make Lumra strong again. The next morning, Zara prepared to leave the palace. Emma stood beside her, her expression full of concern but also determination. You really think you can change their minds? Emma asked softly, her eyes scanning the distant horizon. After everything that's happened? After the storm? Zara nodded. I have to, Emma. I can't stay hidden in the palace. The people need to see me for who I truly am, not just the girl with magic, but the girl who wants to help them. We can rebuild this kingdom together. Emma looked at her with a mixture of awe and worry. Just be careful. Bako won't let you do this easily. He'll try everything to stop you. Zara's gaze hardened, the resolve in her eyes growing stronger. Let him try. But he'll fail. Because this time, I'm not alone. I have the power of the earth, the water, the sky, and I have my family. And the people of Lumra will see that magic is not something to fear. With that, Zara turned and left the palace, her heart filled with both fear and hope. The road ahead was uncertain, and Bako's influence was still strong. But she knew one thing for sure, she couldn't stop now. Not when the kingdom needed her most. As she walked toward the gates, she looked back one last time at the palace, her father standing in the doorway, watching her with a mixture of pride and fear. She gave him a small wave, and though he didn't wave back, she knew he understood. This was her path now, and she would follow it, no matter where it led. The journey to the first village took several days. Zara traveled on foot, with Emma by her side, and her thoughts were heavy as they walked. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The storm may have passed, but the kingdom was still in turmoil. Bako's shadow loomed over them all, and she knew the true test of her strength had only just begun. When they finally reached the village, it was eerily quiet. The villagers watched them from a distance, their faces filled with suspicion. Zara could feel the weight of their gaze, the unspoken fear that clung to the air. It was the same fear she had sensed in her father's eyes, the fear of what she could do, the fear of what she represented. Don't worry, Emma said softly, sensing Zara's unease. You're doing the right thing. They'll understand once they see you. Zara nodded, though she wasn't so sure. She stepped forward, her heart pounding, and the villagers parted to let her pass. She could hear whispers, hushed voices filled with suspicion, and a few frightened children peeked out from behind their mothers. She stood at the center of the village, her hands at her sides, feeling the cool wind caress her face. It was time to speak, to show them who she truly was. People of Tula, Zara began, her voice strong and clear. I am Zara, daughter of King Jaja of Lumra. I have come to you not as a witch, but as a daughter of the earth. I have come to show you that the magic I carry is not a curse. It is a gift. And I will prove it to you. The crowd shifted uneasily, but Zara didn't back down. She could feel the earth beneath her feet, the river that flowed beside the village, and the air that surrounded them. She closed her eyes and let the magic rise within her, not as a force of destruction, but as a force of peace. As she raised her arms, the ground beneath them hummed with energy. The air grew still, and the river, once churning with doubt and fear, began to calm. Slowly, the villagers' expressions softened. Zara felt the tension in the air begin to loosen, like a knot slowly unraveling. But in the back of the crowd, Zara saw a familiar face, a face that made her heart sink. Bako. He stood in the shadows, watching her, his eyes burning with anger. And she knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger battle. The villagers stood in stunned silence as Zara's magic spread through the village like a whisper. The air hummed with energy, the earth beneath her feet vibrating gently, and the river, which had once been a symbol of their fears, now shimmered with a peaceful glow. The tension that had gripped the village seemed to melt away, replaced by an uneasy calm. Zara's heart swelled with hope. She had shown them, just as she had promised. She wasn't the enemy. She was their ally. The magic she wielded was not something to fear, it was a part of the land itself, a force of healing and growth. But in the back of the crowd, Zara's gaze caught a figure that made her heart skip a beat. There, standing at the edge of the gathering, was Bako. His arms were crossed, and his eyes were narrowed, burning with resentment. Zara's pulse quickened, and a deep unease settled in her stomach. She had known he would be here. She had known he would be watching her every move. Bako was a man driven by power and control, and Zara's magic threatened both. The people had begun to see her for who she truly was, but Bako would never allow that. He would use every ounce of influence he had to stop her from succeeding. Zara took a deep breath, turning her focus back to the villagers, pushing aside the fear that Bako's presence stirred within her. She needed to show them her strength, to prove that she was more than just a girl with magic. She was a daughter of Lumara, a part of their very land. The magic she had unleashed was proof of that. "I understand your fears," Zara said, her voice carrying over the crowd. "But this power is not meant to harm you. It is meant to heal, to bring balance to our land. I am not your enemy." There were murmurs among the villagers, their eyes flicking nervously from Zara to Bako. She could sense the shift in the air, their trust was growing, but it was fragile. Bako's influence was strong, and it would take more than just a demonstration of power to win their hearts. Bako finally spoke, his voice dripping with disdain. "This is nothing but an illusion," he called out, stepping forward from the shadows. "A trick to make you believe that she is something she is not. Do not let her magic cloud your judgment. This is the same girl who summoned a storm and nearly destroyed the kingdom. She is not a healer. She is a danger to us all." The villagers shifted uneasily at his words, their fear rekindling. Zara could feel the change in the air, the weight of Bako's words sinking into their hearts like poison. She had to act quickly before the seeds of doubt took root. "No, Bako," Zara said firmly, her voice carrying a quiet authority. "I did not summon that storm out of malice. I was angry and afraid, yes. But it was not the magic that caused the destruction, it was my own fear. The storm was born from within me, from my pain and my confusion. But I have learned. I have learned that fear is not the answer." Zara's voice rang clear, and the villagers seemed to hold their breath. She felt the power of the earth beneath her feet, the river at her back, and the sky above her. She was no longer just a frightened girl. She was a force of nature, and she would show them that her magic was not something to be feared. "I will not let fear control me, and I will not let it control you," Zara continued. "This power, this magic, is part of us all. It is in the land, in the water, in the sky. And together, we can heal what has been broken." The villagers looked at each other, their eyes filled with uncertainty. Some were beginning to nod, their skepticism beginning to fade. But Zara knew the battle wasn't won yet. Bako was still there, still watching, still waiting for his chance to strike. "I am the one who has been entrusted with the kingdom's future," Bako sneered, his voice sharp and filled with venom. "And I will not let a child, a girl with no understanding of real power, tear it apart." Zara's fists clenched, but she kept her voice steady. "You do not speak for the kingdom, Bako. You speak only for yourself. You have been sowing division and fear for too long. But the people of Lumara are stronger than that. We are united. And we will not be swayed by your lies." Bako's eyes flashed with fury, but before he could retort, Zara raised her hand. The energy in the air shifted, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse with a soft, rhythmic beat, like the heart of the earth itself. Zara could feel it, the pulse of the kingdom's magic, a connection to the land that ran deep beneath the surface. She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the energy, the life force of Lumara. Then, with a deep breath, she let the magic flow through her. The air around her shimmered with a faint glow, and the earth beneath the villagers' feet seemed to hum with life. The river beside them rippled gently, its waters now clear and calm. Zara opened her eyes and looked at the villagers, her voice soft but full of conviction. "This is not my magic alone. It is the magic of the land, the magic of the people. It is a gift we must learn to share, to respect. We can heal Lumara together." For a moment, there was complete silence. Then, slowly, the villagers began to nod. Their expressions, once filled with fear, were now filled with cautious hope. Zara's heart swelled with relief. She had done it. She had shown them the truth. But Bako was not finished. He stepped forward, his face twisted in anger. You think they will follow you? You think they will trust you? You are nothing but a girl with power she does not understand. And I will make sure they know the truth. You will never be their queen. Zara's gaze hardened. I am not here to be their queen, Bako, she said coldly. I am here to help them. And if you stand in my way, you will be the one who loses everything. Bako sneered and turned on his heel, storming away from the village square, his words lingering in the air like poison. We shall see, he muttered, his voice low with venom. As he disappeared into the distance, Zara felt the tension in the air begin to ease. The villagers had seen the truth. They had witnessed the power of her magic and had begun to understand that it was not something to fear. But Zara knew this was only the first battle. There would be more. Bako would not stop. And his influence over the courtiers in the palace would not be easily shaken. But for now, she had won. She had proven that her magic was not a curse, it was a gift. And as long as she had the support of the people, she would continue to fight for Lumara's future. Turning to Emma, Zara smiled wearily. We've taken the first step. Emma smiled back, her eyes full of pride. And we'll keep going, no matter what comes next. The days following Zara's demonstration in Tula were filled with both triumph and uncertainty. While the villagers had begun to see her magic in a new light, the shadow of Bako still loomed large over the kingdom. He was a man who thrived on fear, and Zara knew that no victory was ever truly won as long as he still had the power to sow doubt and distrust. As she traveled from village to village, her resolve grew stronger, but so did the challenges she faced. The word of her action spread quickly across Lumara, and with it, whispers of both admiration and fear. Some villages welcomed her with open arms, eager to learn and to trust in the magic she carried. Others, however, remained skeptical, fearful of the unknown power she wielded. Zara's heart weighed heavy with the knowledge that many would not so easily embrace the change she sought to bring. She couldn't blame them. Fear was a powerful thing. It made people believe in things that weren't true. It made them do things they would later regret. But Zara couldn't afford to focus on the fear. She had a kingdom to heal, and a path to pave, a path that would eventually lead to the truth. After a long journey, Zara arrived in the village of Olumo, a place known for its beautiful, towering trees and flowing rivers. Here, she hoped the people would be more open to her message, for it was said that the elders of Olumo were wise and had a deep connection with the land. If any village could understand the importance of balance, it would be this one. As Zara and Emma entered the village, they were greeted with curious stares from the villagers, who gathered in small groups near the center of the village. Zara could see the hesitation in their eyes, an uncertainty that mirrored the feelings of the people in the other villages she had visited. They, too, were afraid. And somewhere, hidden beneath that fear, Zara could sense the subtle influence of Bako. His lies were far-reaching, and they were taking root, feeding the very distrust she had come here to dispel. I don't know if this is going to be any easier, Emma said softly, her voice filled with concern. The people are already wary, Zara. Bako's influence has spread far. Zara nodded grimly. I know. But I can't give up. We have to do this, Emma. We can't let fear win. Together, they made their way toward the central gathering area, where the elders of Olumo had assembled to meet her. The elders sat in a semicircle, their faces lined with wisdom and experience, though their eyes were wary. Zara could feel the weight of their scrutiny as they watched her approach. One of the elders, an older woman with a silver-streaked braid and piercing eyes, spoke first. Zara, daughter of King Jaja, we have heard much about you. We have heard of your power, your magic. But we have also heard whispers of fear. Some say you are the cause of the storm that nearly destroyed the kingdom. Others say you are the harbinger of disaster. Zara's heart sank at the words, but she refused to let the fear in her chest show. I understand your fear, she said calmly, her voice steady. But I am not the cause of the storm. The storm was born of my fear, my confusion. But I have learned. I have learned that fear only breeds destruction. The magic I carry is not to harm, it is to heal, to bring balance to the land. But the land, and the people must be ready to receive it. The elder raised an eyebrow, her expression skeptical but not unkind. And how can we trust you, child? How can we know that your magic is not something to fear? Zara took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the magic flow through her. The air grew still, and the soft rustling of the trees seemed to quiet as if the very land was listening. I cannot make you trust me with words alone, Zara said, opening her eyes and looking directly at the elder. But I can show you. She extended her hands toward the ground, and the earth beneath them trembled softly. The trees that surrounded the village began to sway, their leaves rustling as if in greeting. The river, which had been slow and calm, began to ripple with life, its waters flowing faster, clearer, as if responding to Zara's call. Zara closed her eyes again, focusing on the energy around her. She could feel the land, the water, the sky, all of them were alive, connected, and waiting. With a soft exhale, she allowed the magic to spread outward. Flowers began to bloom in the soil beneath her feet, their vibrant colors filling the air with a sweet fragrance. The once still trees began to hum with life, their branches reaching toward the sky in a slow, graceful dance. When she opened her eyes again, the villagers were staring in awe. The elder's gaze softened, and Zara could feel her wariness beginning to lift. This is no ordinary magic, the elder said quietly. It is the magic of the earth itself. The magic of life, of growth, of renewal. Zara nodded, her heart swelling with pride. Yes. This magic is a part of the land, a part of us all. I am not a witch. I am not a destroyer. I am a healer, and I want to help restore balance to this kingdom. The elder remained silent for a long moment, her eyes studying Zara carefully. Then, at last, she spoke. We will need time to consider what you have shown us, Zara. But there is no denying the truth of what we have seen today. The magic you wield is real. And it may very well be the key to the future of Lumara. Zara's heart leapt with hope, but she knew better than to be complacent. This was just the beginning. There were still many more villages to visit, and still more fears to overcome. Bako's influence was not easily broken, and his schemes would not stop here. But Zara was determined. She had come this far, and she would go even further. She would prove to the people of Lumara that the magic she carried was not something to fear. It was a gift, one that could heal their kingdom, if only they would accept it. As Zara and Emma continued their journey, they encountered more villages, each with its own challenges. Some were skeptical, but Zara's unwavering faith in her magic and her message began to win over hearts. Slowly but surely, the people of Lumara started to see that Zara's gift was not a curse, but a blessing. But Bako was never far behind. His whispers spread like wildfire, and every victory Zara earned felt fleeting. She knew that her greatest challenge was yet to come, the battle for the palace, the heart of Lumara itself. And with that thought, Zara's resolve only strengthened. She would not let fear win. She would return to the palace and face her father, face the courtiers, and face Bako. She would fight for the future of Lumara, no matter the cost. The journey to the palace was long, and each step felt heavier than the last. Zara had known that her return to the heart of Lumara would not be easy, but the weight of it now seemed more daunting than she had ever imagined. As they traveled, the kingdom's landscape changed from the peaceful, vibrant villages she had visited to the imposing stone walls and grand gates of the palace. Zara could feel the eyes of the people on her as they passed, some filled with hope, others still shadowed with doubt. As they approached the palace gates, Zara felt a deep unease. She had not set foot in the palace since the day she was cast out. The memories of her father's harsh words and the betrayal of the courtiers still stung, and the palace, once a symbol of her home, now felt like a fortress of isolation. Do you think the people here will listen to you? Emma asked quietly, walking beside her. Zara hesitated, her thoughts swirling. I don't know. Bako has his hold on the palace, on the courtiers, and even my father. But I can't run from this. The people are counting on me. The kingdom is counting on me. The palace loomed ahead, its high walls and towering spires casting long shadows over the courtyard. Zara could see the guards at the gates, their eyes wary as they watched her approach. She straightened her shoulders, drawing on every bit of courage she had. She was no longer the girl who had been cast into the sea. She was stronger now, more in tune with the magic she carried, and she would not be turned away. Zara of Tula, one of the guards called out as they reached the gates. "You have no right to be here. Turn back now." Zara's gaze hardened. "I've come to see my father, King Jaja. I've come to restore peace to Lumara." The guard hesitated, uncertainty flickering in his eyes, but then he stepped aside. "Very well. Enter." The gates creaked open, and Zara and Emma stepped through. The palace was as grand as Zara remembered, though it felt colder now, like an empty shell. The courtyards were quiet, the halls echoing with the sounds of footsteps that reverberated off the stone walls. It was too quiet. Zara could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. They made their way to the throne room, where the court gathered to hear matters of the kingdom. Zara could already sense Bako's presence. His influence was like a shadow, darkening everything around him. When they reached the doors of the throne room, Zara paused, her hand resting on the cool wood. She could hear her father's voice inside, stern and commanding. But there was something else, something she couldn't quite place. The atmosphere was thick with unease. With a deep breath, Zara pushed the doors open, stepping into the throne room. The courtiers were gathered, and at the far end, sitting upon his golden throne, was King Jaja. His face was weary, his eyes tired, as if the weight of the crown had become too much for him to bear. At his side stood Bako, his eyes cold and calculating as he watched Zara's every movement. Zara's heart skipped a beat. She could feel his gaze digging into her, a reminder of the battle she had yet to win. "Father," Zara called out, her voice steady, though her heart raced. "I've come home." King Jaja's eyes flicked toward her, his face unreadable. "You have returned, Zara. But why? After everything that happened, why would you come back to this palace, to this kingdom that cast you away?" Zara's throat tightened at the words, but she forced herself to speak. "Because I believe in this kingdom. Because I believe that Lumara can be healed. I've learned the truth about my magic, Father. It's not a curse, it's a gift, one I want to share with our people." Bako sneered from his place at the side, his voice dripping with malice. "You think that magic can save Lumara? That a girl, an outcast, can bring peace to a kingdom torn apart by chaos? You are nothing but a danger, Zara." Zara stood tall, refusing to let his words cut through her. "I've already shown the people the truth. I've already healed the land. The storm that you say I caused was born from fear and anger, not from the magic I carry. But it's time for Lumara to heal. And I will do whatever it takes to make sure it does." Bako's face twisted in contempt. "Do you truly believe that your magic can fix everything? That you, a mere girl, can fix what has been broken for years? You have no place here, Zara." Zara's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, she felt the full weight of the kingdom's fear pressing down on her. But then she remembered the villages she had visited, the people who had seen her magic for what it was. She wasn't just fighting for her place in this palace. She was fighting for Lumara's future, for the people who had believed in her. Turning to face her father, she spoke with a quiet authority. "You've been misled, Father. Bako has fed you lies, and they have poisoned your judgment. The kingdom is suffering because of the choices that have been made. You cannot let fear rule us any longer." There was a long silence, and Zara could see her father's face soften, his eyes clouded with uncertainty. For a moment, it seemed as if he might speak, but before he could, Bako stepped forward, his voice sharp and commanding. "You will not take this kingdom from me, Zara," Bako growled. "You will not destroy everything I've built. You are nothing but a threat to the future of Lumara." Zara's heart pounded, but she didn't flinch. "You are the one who threatens Lumara, Bako. You've sown fear and division, and now the people are paying the price. But that ends today." The courtiers murmured amongst themselves, their expressions torn between fear and awe. Zara could feel their doubt, their hesitation, but she refused to back down. She would not let Bako's lies go unchallenged. With a deep breath, Zara stepped forward, her hands raised to the air. The magic that flowed through her, the magic of the land and the rivers, began to hum, the energy crackling in the air. The earth beneath their feet seemed to tremble, and the once still air was now thick with power. "Enough," Zara said, her voice echoing through the throne room, filled with strength and certainty. "I will show you, Bako. I will show you that this magic is not a weapon. It is the salvation of Lumara." The throne room was thick with tension as Zara stood tall, her hands still raised toward the heavens. The air around her buzzed with magic, the very earth beneath her feet responding to her call. She could feel the power surging through her, the connection to the land stronger than ever. It was as if the kingdom itself had heard her plea for balance and healing. But Bako, ever the manipulator, did not flinch. His eyes locked onto hers with a coldness that sent a shiver down her spine. He was not the least bit intimidated. Instead, he laughed, a low, mocking sound that seemed to echo off the stone walls of the throne room. "You think your little tricks will save Lumara?" Bako sneered, his voice laced with venom. "Your magic is nothing but an illusion, Zara. The kingdom is mine, and I will not let a child of the sea tear it down." Zara's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to be shaken by his words. She had come too far to turn back now. The people of Lumara needed her to be strong, to prove that her magic was not a curse, but a force for good. "I don't need illusions, Bako," Zara replied, her voice steady. "I have the truth on my side, and that is more powerful than any of your lies." With a swift motion, she clenched her fists, drawing on the magic that flowed through her. The ground beneath her feet trembled, and the air grew thick with energy. She could feel the pulse of the earth, the heartbeat of Lumara, as if the very land was rallying behind her. The trees that surrounded the palace seemed to sway in unison with her movements, their branches reaching toward the sky as though in agreement. Bako's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, there was a flicker of doubt in his expression. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by a cold, calculating rage. He stepped forward, his hand outstretched as if to strike, and for a brief moment, Zara felt the full weight of his hatred. "You dare challenge me," he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "You are nothing. A mere girl with nothing but empty promises and foolish dreams." Zara didn't back down. She stepped forward, her body glowing with a soft, radiant light as the magic surged through her, the power of the land and the sea merging within her. With a sharp motion of her hand, she sent a wave of energy crashing toward Bako, the force of it shaking the throne room as it collided with him. The blast was not one of destruction, but of pure force, a wave that was meant to push, to create distance. Bako staggered back, his expression one of surprise and fury. He hadn't expected her to be so strong. "That's enough," Bako shouted, his eyes blazing with fury. "You are a fool, Zara. You think you can stand against me? I will crush you and everything you stand for." With a growl, Bako raised his own hand, and the air seemed to crackle with dark energy. Zara could feel the pull of his magic, a twisted, chaotic force that sought to bend everything to his will. She had seen this magic before, dark, corrupting, meant to manipulate and control. It was the kind of magic that fed on fear and anger, that sought to destroy rather than heal. But Zara was not afraid. She knew that she had something stronger, something that could counter Bako's darkness. She was the daughter of both the land and the sea, a keeper of balance. Her magic was not born from fear, but from love, love for the kingdom, love for her people, and love for the earth itself. With a fierce cry, Zara released the full force of her magic. The energy swirled around her like a storm, wild and free. The trees outside the palace began to bend toward her, their roots digging deep into the earth, as if drawing power from the very core of the land. The river nearby swelled and surged, the waters rising as if to answer her call. Bako's magic collided with hers, the two forces clashing in a violent storm of light and dark. The throne room shook as the battle raged, the walls cracking under the strain of the opposing forces. Zara could feel Bako's magic pushing against hers, but she held firm, her eyes focused and determined. "Your darkness will not win, Bako," she shouted, her voice carrying over the chaos. "I will fight for Lumara, for my people, for the future." Bako's eyes blazed with fury, but even as he pushed harder against her, Zara could see the cracks forming in his resolve. His magic was unstable, fueled by his greed and hatred. It was strong, but it lacked the balance and harmony that Zara's magic had. Her magic was not just power, it was a connection to everything around her, a connection that Bako could never understand. With one final, forceful motion, Zara released all of her magic in a brilliant burst of light. The throne room erupted in a blinding flash, the air crackling with energy as the two forces collided in a final, explosive clash. When the light faded and the dust settled, Zara stood tall, her magic swirling around her like a protective shield. Bako, however, was on his knees, his hands trembling as he struggled to regain his composure. His eyes were wide with disbelief, and for the first time, Zara saw fear in them. You cannot defeat me," Bako whispered, his voice shaking. Zara took a step forward, her heart heavy with the weight of what needed to be done. "I don't want to defeat you, Bako. I want to heal this kingdom. But you've chosen the wrong path. And because of that, you will fall." The courtiers watched in stunned silence, their faces a mixture of awe and fear. The truth was clear now, Bako's reign of manipulation and fear was over. Zara had proven herself not just to them, but to herself. She had the power to change Lumara, and she would do so, no matter the cost. Turning to face her father, Zara spoke softly. "Father, it's time to let go of the lies. It's time to bring peace to Lumara." King Jaja, who had been silent throughout the confrontation, finally stood, his eyes searching Zara's face. The weight of the moment hung between them. For a long time, he said nothing. But at last, his voice broke the silence. "You are right, Zara," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I have been blinded by fear. I have allowed myself to be misled. But no more. Lumara needs you. And I will help you heal this kingdom." Zara's heart swelled with a mixture of relief and determination. It was not the end, there was still much to be done. But it was a beginning. And for the first time in a long while, Zara felt a flicker of hope. The throne room, once filled with tension and the crackling of dark magic, now seemed eerily quiet. Zara could feel the weight of her victory settling on her shoulders, but it was a victory that felt more like a beginning than an end. The courtiers, still stunned by the power they had witnessed, exchanged nervous glances. No one moved, no one spoke. Even the air seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. King Jaja, still standing, turned slowly toward his courtiers. His voice, when it came, was heavy with authority and regret. "It is clear now that I have been blind," he said, his words echoing through the chamber. "Blinded by fear, by power, and by my own arrogance. But this kingdom, our kingdom, belongs to the people. It belongs to those who still believe in its heart. We must heal, not by force, but by truth and love." There was a long pause, and Zara could see the uncertainty in her father's eyes. For so many years, he had ruled with a firm hand, unwilling to see beyond the shadows Bako had cast. Now, his heart was heavy with the realization that his decisions had caused deep wounds to his kingdom. But Zara could also see something else, a flicker of hope, a desire to make things right. Zara stepped forward, her voice steady but soft. "We can heal Lumara, father. But we must start with the people. They need to feel safe again. They need to know that their king is not a tyrant, but a leader who will protect them." King Jaja nodded slowly. "I will do what it takes. I will call for a council. We will listen to the people, to their voices, and rebuild Lumara from the ground up." The courtiers, many of whom had been loyal to Bako, began to murmur among themselves. Some were fearful, others uncertain. They had seen the power of Zara's magic, and they knew that things had changed. They could no longer afford to remain silent or complicit in the kingdom's suffering. Zara's eyes scanned the room, looking for those who might still be loyal to Bako, those who had followed him for the sake of power. But she could see that even they were hesitant now, their once firm convictions shaken by what they had witnessed. "We cannot heal what is broken by ignoring the truth," Zara said, her voice strong. "There must be accountability. Bako's lies cannot go unpunished. We must ensure that justice is served, so the people of Lumra can trust again. Bako, still kneeling on the floor, glared up at her. His face twisted in anger and fear, but there was a glint of something else in his eyes, something Zara could not quite place. For a moment, she felt a flicker of sympathy. He had been consumed by his own hunger for power, and now he was trapped by the very darkness he had created. "You think I'll just disappear?" Bako spat. "I will never bow to you, Zara. Never." Zara met his gaze, unflinching. "You no longer have a choice. The kingdom will not follow you, Bako. You have betrayed its people for the last time." King Jaja stepped forward, his voice firm and final. "Bako, you will be taken into custody. You will answer for your crimes against this kingdom." The courtiers watched in silence as Bako was led away, his head held high despite the chains that bound him. Zara couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness. It wasn't that she wanted to see him suffer, it was that she knew his heart had become too dark to save. His pride, his ambition, and his greed had driven him to this point, and there was no turning back. As Bako was escorted from the throne room, Zara turned back to her father. "We can begin now. But we must move quickly. The people are waiting. They are hungry for hope, father." King Jaja nodded, his expression weary but resolute. "I will call for a gathering of the elders. We will listen to the voices of the people. The work of healing must begin at once." Zara felt a sense of calm wash over her. The battle had been won, but the real work was just beginning. She could feel the pull of the land, the rivers, and the sea calling to her. She had to honor her connection to the earth, to the magic that had been with her all along. The healing of Lumra would take time, but it would come, one step at a time. As Zara left the throne room, Emma fell into step beside her. "You did it," Emma said, her voice filled with awe. "You really did it. The kingdom is yours again." Zara smiled softly, but there was no joy in it. "Not yet. There's still so much to do." The streets of Lumra were quiet as Zara and Emma made their way toward the village square. People watched them from their homes, their eyes filled with curiosity and wariness. The kingdom had been broken, but it was not beyond repair. The people needed time to believe in the change Zara was promising. "We need to show them that change is possible," Zara said quietly. "We need to show them that Lumra can be a place of hope again." Emma nodded. "And we will. Together." As they walked, Zara felt the weight of the responsibility settling on her shoulders. It was not just about the throne, or the courtiers, or even Bako, it was about the people of Lumra. It was about rebuilding trust, about healing the wounds that had been caused by years of fear and division. And most of all, it was about proving that the magic she carried was not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. When they reached the village square, Zara stood before the crowd of people who had gathered. They were silent, their eyes filled with questions and uncertainty. But Zara stood tall, her heart full of hope. "I have returned," she began, her voice carrying over the crowd. "And together, we will rebuild Lumra. We will heal the land, heal the hearts of the people, and bring peace once more." The crowd was still, but Zara could see the first flicker of hope in their eyes. It was not a loud declaration, but a soft promise, a promise that things could be different, that the kingdom could be healed. As Zara stood there, she felt the magic within her stir again. It was as if the land was responding to her words, to her promise. The earth beneath her feet seemed to hum, the air warm and alive with possibility. Lumra was broken, but it could be mended. And Zara was ready to do the work. The days following Zara's proclamation in the village square were filled with an air of cautious hope. The people of Lumra had begun to stir from the long, oppressive silence that had gripped the kingdom. Whispers of change were spreading through the streets, carried by the wind like the first scent of rain in the dry season. But hope alone was not enough. Zara knew the road ahead would be long and challenging. The wounds of the kingdom were deep, and healing would require more than just magic, it would require trust, effort, and the courage to face the truth. Zara and her father, King Jaja, met with the elders of the kingdom the very next morning. The elders were a group of wise men and women who had long served as advisors to the royal family. Their faces were lined with age, their eyes keen with the wisdom of years spent observing the ebb and flow of Lumura's history. But today, there was something different about them, a sense of expectation that had not been there before. Zara could feel the weight of their gazes on her, and she knew that they, too, were waiting to see what would happen next. The council gathered in the palace courtyard, where the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the stone. Zara stood before them, her hands resting lightly at her sides. She was no longer just a princess, she was a leader, a healer, and a symbol of change. The elders had once doubted her, seeing only a girl with mysterious magic, but now, they saw something more. They saw the strength in her, the heart that beat for the kingdom, the magic that could restore what had been lost. Zara, the eldest of the council, Nia, spoke first. Her voice was soft, but there was a certain firmness to it that carried through the courtyard. You have proven yourself in ways we never imagined. But you are young, and this kingdom is not easily mended. We will need your guidance, but we will also need our people's trust. They have been through much. Zara nodded, her eyes steady. I know. The people are afraid. They've suffered under the rule of fear, and now they don't know how to hope again. But I believe that Lumura can heal. We can rebuild, together. It will take time, and it will not be easy. But if we are to succeed, we must start by listening to the people. The healing must come from the ground up. There was a murmur of agreement among the elders. Nia's eyes softened as she gazed at Zara. You speak of truth, child. And truth is what we need most of all. The kingdom is fractured, and only by confronting the wrongs of the past can we begin to make things right. For the next several hours, Zara and the council discussed the path forward. They spoke of gathering the people, listening to their concerns, and addressing the needs of those who had suffered most under Bako's rule. The village of Tula, where Zara had spent much of her childhood, would be the first to receive aid. Its people were the most in need, having been severely affected by the harsh policies Bako had imposed. Zara also spoke of the importance of restoring the balance between the land and the sea. The magic that flowed through her was tied to both elements, and it was through that connection that she could heal the earth, the waters, and the people of Lumura. She promised that she would work alongside the elders to guide the restoration, ensuring that the magic was used not for power, but for peace and prosperity. As the council disbanded, Zara found herself once again standing alone in the courtyard, the weight of her responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. The sun had set, and the palace was bathed in the soft glow of twilight. She gazed out over the kingdom, her mind racing with plans and possibilities. Are you all right? Emma's voice broke through her thoughts, soft and concerned. Zara turned to find her friend standing nearby, her face glowing in the fading light. Emma had been by her side throughout the darkest moments of her journey, and Zara was grateful for her presence. I'm not sure, Zara admitted, her voice barely a whisper. It's a lot to carry. This kingdom, it's been so broken for so long. How do I fix it? How do we fix it? Emma walked over and placed a comforting hand on Zara's shoulder. You don't have to do it alone. You have us. You have the people. They believe in you, Zara. And even if it doesn't feel like it now, you're already making a difference. Zara smiled at her friend, grateful for the support. I know. Sometimes it feels like there's so much to do. I don't want to fail them. You won't fail them, Emma said firmly. You have the magic. You have the strength. And most of all, you have the heart. The next morning, Zara and the council set out for Tula. The journey was not a long one, but it felt like a pilgrimage, a return to the roots of the kingdom, to the place where Zara had first felt the pulse of the land's magic. The village was nestled near a river, its huts made from palm fronds and clay. The people of Tula had always been close to the earth, and Zara could sense their longing for the days when the land had flourished under the watchful care of the royal family. As they approached, Zara could see the signs of hardship. Fields that were once green and bountiful now lay fallow, and the river, once vibrant and full of life, had slowed to a mere trickle. The people of Tula were waiting for them, their faces wary but hopeful. Zara felt a pang in her heart as she looked into their eyes. They had been abandoned, left to suffer in silence, and now they were looking to her for guidance. She stepped forward, her voice steady as she addressed the crowd. I know the land has been broken, but we are here to begin the healing. Together, we will restore the river, the fields, and the balance that has been lost. I will call upon the magic of the land and the sea to bring life back to this place. And I promise you, the kingdom will not forget you again. As Zara spoke, the air seemed to shift. The wind began to stir, and the ground beneath her feet hummed with energy. She raised her hands to the sky, drawing on the magic that flowed through her veins. The land responded, the earth warming beneath her, the river beginning to rise as the waters rushed back to their banks. The people of Tula watched in awe as the fields began to green, the trees sprouting fresh leaves, and the river surged with life once again. Tears of joy filled the eyes of the villagers, and Zara could hear their whispers of thanks. She had done it. She had begun the healing. But it was only the first step. There was much work to be done, throughout Lumara, and within her heart. But for the first time since she had been cast into the sea, Zara felt a sense of peace settle within her. As the seasons changed, Lumara transformed before Zara's eyes. The once broken kingdom began to heal, piece by piece. The villages flourished, the land grew bountiful again, and the river sparkled with life. The people, who had once feared Zara's magic, now embraced it as a gift. King Jaja, his heart lightened by the changes, stood proudly beside his daughter, a king no longer blinded by fear, but one who led with wisdom and compassion. Zara, now recognized not only as a princess but as a true leader, continued her work to unite the kingdom. She knew the road to peace was long and would require patience, but she had learned something invaluable along the way, the power of hope, the importance of trust, and that magic, when used for good, could heal even the deepest wounds. The palace was no longer a place of fear and tension but a symbol of unity. The courtiers who had once betrayed Zara now worked alongside her, understanding that true strength came not from power, but from the heart. Zara's heart. One evening, as the sun set over the kingdom, Zara stood with Emma at the edge of the river, watching the golden light dance on the water. You did it, Emma said with a smile. You saved Lumara. You saved us all. Zara smiled, feeling the warmth of the land beneath her feet, the wind in her hair. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. Every person, every part of this kingdom. We healed together. The river flowed steadily, a symbol of the kingdom's rebirth. Zara knew the work wasn't over, but she also knew that the heart of Lumara was strong, and together, they could face anything that came their way. The story of Zara teaches us that even in the darkest times, hope and determination can bring about great change. Sometimes, what seems like a curse can be a gift in disguise, and true strength comes not from power, but from kindness, trust, and love for those around you. By working together, we can overcome even the greatest challenges. What do you think Zara's greatest lesson was in this story? Was it about believing in herself, trusting others, or something else? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this story if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to get more amazing tales like this one. Your support helps us bring more magic to the world.